STEM fans, are you ready? Let's hear it for the world-class NASA STEM Stars team. From NASA centers across the country, we present Dr. Don Martin.
All right, welcome to our 26th edition of NASA STEM Stars webinar. I'm your host, Lynn Dotson, an education specialist at the Kennedy Space Center. And joining us today is Dr. Don Martin, a human-machine systems engineer at Kennedy Space Center. And we're coming to you live from remote locations. NASA STEM Star allows all students to connect firsthand with scientists, engineers, innovators from NASA to learn the different career pathways, opportunities, and missions. Check out, if you are interested, hashtag NextGenSTEM. And I'll talk a little bit about what our mission is for today. So today you are going to meet our NASA STEM star, explore her career, and then we're going to encourage you to ask your questions along the way. And also learn about the mission. We actually have a mission for you, so kind of like a homework assignment. And then we'll also discuss what's next on next week's NASA STEM Stars. So be sure to stick around for the entire 30 minutes because you're not going to be bored. It's going to be awesome, and you're going to have we're going to have a fun homework assignment after. So maybe I shouldn't call it homework assignment, but at this point, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Don Martin. Thank you so much, Dr. Martin, for being here. And why don't you just go ahead and start off with telling me a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you so much, Lynn, for having me. It's always a pleasure to stop by and see you. And so, yes, I have the distinct honor of being an engineer at NASA. I work at the Kennedy Space Center, and I really enjoy my family. I enjoy gardening, and anything human. And I like to talk to people. I like to coach and tutor children. I have a couple children of my own, and I'm a private pilot.
Very cool. So you are very dynamic, but you are going to talk a little bit more about all of your interests and hobbies. We'll get a little bit into more detail of that. Your family is amazing. I've seen pictures, and I just got to meet your daughter earlier. So go ahead and go into more about your family and your career and your hobbies.
Sure. So yes, my interests have really evolved over the years. Let's just say I started out being so interested in science and formulas and mathematics and numbers. And then over time, I kind of got curious about how do these things get applied to machines? How do we take a mere chemical and turn it into propulsion that can take thousands of pounds of steel and send it into the air, out of space? How do you do that? And that evolution kind of kept me sort of grounded also. I started looking into, this whole thing about space and propulsion and rocketry. Why do we do it? We do it for the people. We do it for life here on Earth. And so, getting the people involved, I started to understand, hey, we really do have to take care of the people. As my old professor said, you have one job, take care of the people. So in taking care, I also take care of plants in my garden. I wish I had a picture to show you my garden. I am very proud of it. So that's there lies my interests. I also like flying. Yeah, I enjoy. My happy place is sitting in the cockpit ready for takeoff, and the speed you have to go for takeoff. That's really nice. Yeah. And my dad enjoys it too. I pick him up he lives about 4 hours by road, and he enjoys when I come get him, and it takes us 75 minutes to get to my house. So there is that.
Wow. That's very great. Your interests, your hobbies are awesome. When we kind of get into your job, of course you had a path that you went on, and I know a lot of students are tuning in right now and are probably thinking, wow, what does a human systems engineer do? But first of all, how do you even get into NASA? So what is your path? What was your path starting out with your education and going a little bit into internships?
Oh, sure. That's a funny story, Lynn. Thank you for asking. So I started out at the University of Florida. Go Gators, right?
Go Gators! Yeah.
I got my
I was a
bachelor's
Gator.
degree.
I'm
Amen. So I'm really in good company today.
Yes,
and
you
so
are.
I got my bachelor's degree from the University of Florida, and then I headed south, closer to home, and stopped at the University of Central Florida to pick up my master's degree. Right, it's not just picking up, but hey, I got my master's degree further south of Gainesville at the University of Florida. And then I moved on down south to the University of Miami, where I got my doctorate degree. So how does a gator become a hurricane? By being a noble knight. And that's how you get
love that.
to be a NASA engineer.
Very cool. So you are obviously love all the Florida schools, and that's so neat that you're a part of almost every single one of the big schools here in Florida. So, so once you were through college and got all of your major degrees, including your doctorate, you did an internship at some point along the way. So can you tell us a little bit about? I've heard it was a kind of a dirty jobs internship.
Yes, I did. I started my first internship, or first real job almost, was with the Gainesville Regional Utilities, where I was studying chemical engineering. I was a chemical engineer, and so one of my jobs was testing wastewater. And you know what wastewater is, right? Wastewater is what comes out through the sewer. So that was kind of a messy job. I remember coming home after a day's work, and the apartment I rented, the landlord would say, "Oh, I hear you coming, Dawn," but I think she meant she smelled I was coming in, but that I didn't mind because it was a job. I moved on to, it was more environmental protection. And then my next job, actually, with the experience I had gotten from the utilities company, I was able to become a field chemist, where I was responsible for working with soil samples. Again, applying chemistry, soil samples, and testing the soil to make sure that the contaminants, or just to quantify or measure or see how much contaminants there are in the soil, so that we can start the remediation, which is really just cleanup. It's a big word for environmental cleanup. And I also, at that time, there were people working in these messy jobs. So I got interested in protection of workers through all those jobs.
Very cool. So, you got to sometimes do some not so beautiful jobs to get to the dream job, right? So I want to just remind our listeners that are out there that we actually would love to start taking some of your questions. So if you have any questions for Dr. Martin, please put them in the chat, and we will get to those as we progress. So talking about the internship now, going to actually what you do. So what does a human machine systems engineer do at NASA?
Yes. So human machine systems engineering. So the best way to describe it is, let's just think about it. Humans come pre-made, right? Take my friend Millie, for example, here. My friend Millie is, when we are born, humans have a set length of their legs, your arms are a certain length. We're capable of certain things, and there are things that we are not capable of. We call them our limitations. So say, for instance, if Millie here wants to reach for something, she has to whatever it is she's reaching for has to be within the length of her arms, right? And so if she has to, say, for instance, sit on this chair, we have to make sure that the chair is designed for her body. So I'm in the business of protecting workers again, and designing systems that are suited for the workers' capabilities and limitations. So as I brought along some pictures to show you, we have equipment that we use to measure. So if you can see, we have a motion capture. That's the picture you see with the person with the lights. So that shows all the protrusions on the body that if that person should ever bend their arm, you can see the bend radius and all the details that you need to do the measurements to make sure that when they work, they are doing it safely. And of course, there are all kinds of equipment that we wear and things that we do for that. I'd like to show you a quick video in a second, and what that describes what happens, the working conditions that our people are subjected to, and how the human machine systems engineer has to be attuned to what the work conditions are and design the systems to ensure that the work is done safely.
Excellent. So we'll roll a clip, just a short clip, and then we'll kind of talk a little bit about after that clip plays.
Sure.
Wow. So that seemed like a lot of energy. And what was that exactly?
So that was when we tested the RS-25 rocket engine. That is the engine that is going to propel the next space, the rocket. That's, it's called the SLS. We use acronyms so much I have to make myself say out the acronym, but it's the Space Launch System. We used to have the Space Shuttle. Now we have the Space Launch System, and that's the rocket engine that will propel that Space Launch System into space. Now, if you notice, there was a lot of noise and a lot of vibration, and for the test, we actually had to do that test. We had to do that test over and over and over again. And the plan was to turn around that engine, meaning test it, build it, break it down, clean it, and build it back up and test it again 10 times over 10 days. That was our time frame. So just imagine the workload, the stress on the worker. How can they handle that? So they brought us in, or we're there to monitor, to give guidance as to how much the person can take and how much we can do to make sure that we make that test successful. So I hope that brought some perspective to what we do there in the human machine system engineering world.
Absolutely. I mean, we are human, we are machines, but you also are trying to figure out the best way for us to work with those machines. And I'm blown away literally by your job and how cool it is, and that you get to work with people like that. So if we want to go back to any of the other and describe some of the other pictures on that last slide, or did we pretty much went through those?
Yes, but I also brought another friend over, and this is Bobbie. So Bobbie is a robot. I'm all in the business of people, but I just wanted to make sure you get a good takeaway here, because there is another side. There is a human machine systems. I'm all about building machines. So when we design machines, we really have to make sure that these machines are interacting with the humans well. Right now, we're on the cusp of the Artemis program. We are in the process of launching Artemis 1, 2, 3, and beyond. And so we're going to have robots on the lunar surface and the Martian surface. And eventually, we're going to launch people. And we have to make sure that Robbie and Millie can work together, hand in hand. How do we do that? Human machines interaction. That's what we do here at NASA.
That is so neat. That is so neat. So I did have a question that came in from one of the viewers. The question was, what happens to your body in space and what changes might occur?
Oh, that's a great question. That is a great question because, we've had the space shuttle program for so long, 135 STS-135 missions. We've had people on board. We have had an opportunity to check and test and understand what happens to the human body. Now, they are all in low Earth's orbit, right? They are really close, just outside Earth's atmosphere. So what happens, we know the standard thing, how the vertebral column elongates. We know about how we're not able to exert forces on our muscles, of course, because we don't have gravity. So your muscles get soft. So we have to do things to deliberately and make, again, our bodies are pre-made for living on Earth. In space, it's a whole nother ballgame. One of the things I do for NASA is to provide expertise for long duration spaceflight and how humans will withstand that. So I could go into great details on that, except to say it's marvelous. And I'm sure a student of somebody out there, I can feel it. Somebody out there will be on one of those rockets going to the lunar surface and onto Mars. I'm sure of it. Just stick with the science, stick with the math.
Absolutely. Great to hear. And that long duration space flight, I'm not sure I would want to do it, but I know it's going to take a lot of prep. And even when an astronaut is out in space for a year, there's some effects on that. So very, very cool that you get to help with that and work with those people on trying to figure out the challenges of that and how do we make it better for humans to adapt. So the question I have for you now is a little bit about what is it like to actually work at NASA and specifically Kennedy Space Center. If you'll tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, it's like I love Kennedy Space Center. They say KSC is a place to be, although I've worked at quite a few other centers or at least visited. I've worked at the Langley Research Center, actually is where I developed my love for flying. So at NASA, work at NASA entails, of course, you have to do paperwork, right? So you have to sit in an office. I show one picture there of me sitting in my office, but you get to do other cool things, like I meet just famous, cool people like the astronaut John Glenn. I'm telling you, it's amazing, his whole life and career. We do things like we watch the launch. We have the privilege of watching the launch from outside our window. Those are always fun. And let me tell you, no matter how many launches you see, they're always so exciting. It's just spontaneous. It just makes my heart leap. And one of the biggest thing I get to do at NASA is share that experience with people like you, inspire children. I am asked all the time. Thankfully, Lynn is always inviting me and encouraging me to do the education outreach that I do. So I go to schools and speak with children. So life at NASA, there is never a dull moment for me.
I agree 100%. And you are always so great talking with the students and spreading the NASA word. It's just amazing to hear what you do. And I know you're inspiring a lot of kids out there and me. I get inspired every time I talk to you. So what we're going to do now is we're going to open it up for questions. There's been a few questions, and I actually have a few too for you. And again, remember, if you are tuning in, go ahead and put your questions in the chat. And I'm going to start with, did you always know that you wanted to work at NASA?
You know, I I always knew that I wanted to be a scientist. I was always fascinated by science, by just understanding what makes things work. Now, the NASA interest came later. Actually, my interest in NASA in particular came when I saw Dr. Mae Jemison flew in space in 1992. Yes, I said, that is it. And what got me there, which is really why I do these things, is because there might be some student out there who's thinking, how can I get from a chemical engineer to becoming an astronaut, right? So when I read her bio, when she flew and I read her bio, she's a chemical engineer. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be a chemical engineer. You mean you can be a chemical engineer and be an astronaut? How do you do that? And so and here we are. The rest is history. But thank you, Mae Jemison. That's who inspired me. And here is the crux of it. We have never met in person. I have met tons of astronauts, but I've never met Dr. Mae Jemison, but she is my inspiration. So the message here is you can have role models. You can be inspired by people who don't even know it.
Yeah. Well, maybe she's tuning in. So maybe she might reach out to you. That would be super neat. That is definitely one thing that I love about working with NASA. And it's just all the people you meet, everyone's just genuine. Everyone is just down to earth, even all the astronauts you talk to. So I'm sure she's just the same. So knowing what we know about human systems engineering, can you tell us a little bit about, well, actually, I was wondering if you ever wanted to be, you said you wanted to go into NASA. You didn't know until you met or heard about Mae Jemison. Did you ever want to be an astronaut? I know you said you had your pilot's license.
Yes. Oh, Len, you've touched my heart. Yes, I did want to be an astronaut so bad. And, but the good thing about that desire to be an astronaut really pushed me along. So first, of course, I said, okay, I want to be an astronaut. I heard that, hey, it may be good for you to get a pilot's license. So I went and got a pilot's license. Of course, it helps along with the job, but it makes my resume look a lot stronger. And then I was looking at all the astronaut bios, and I'm thinking, oh, most of them have a doctorate. Oh, I better go. So, and that was a secondary motivation for getting a doctorate degree. And so, it's that desire to be an astronaut that's pushed me along and just kept my interest. And it's really made the quality of work that I do better because I'm always pursuing that one thing that I dream about. And then, of course, the best of it all is I got distracted and had a family. And I said, hey, let me just focus on this family right now.
That could be harder to be an astronaut, I'm telling you.
I know it, but you know what? I may be raising some astronauts of my own. You never know.
That is just a neat thing. And knowing that, like you said, there's so many different careers at NASA. Not everybody's going to be an astronaut, but knowing that there's a possibility, and if that pushes you, that's great. I'm hoping that maybe, there's another question. When did you get interested in space? And before you answer that, I want to make sure that everyone has a link to the NASA internship website. So I'm going to have someone put that in the chat for us because I know internships also help lead you to careers at NASA, and you can get an internship at pretty much any of the centers. So we'll make sure we put that in there. But also, when were you interested in space? When did you specifically get interested in space?
I got interested in space in elementary school. In elementary school, you learn about planets, and I do remember rehearsing the 9 planets, and it's kind of neat that it has my very educated mother in there. So that's really when I started understanding there is such a thing as space out there. What does that look like? And they were telling us about the stars and the constellation. So my interest in space started then. And how I made the bridge between space, because there is aerospace, there's aeronautics, and of course there's astronomy. All of that encompasses what NASA does. So I'm an engineer, I'm all about the design and building rockets and so forth, more rocket science. But there is astronomy that you can do, so the whole space business is wide open. It is true that space is a big place. So my interest started, just to answer your question, Lynn, my interest started at a very young age, but my pursuit for NASA didn't start until much later, or didn't come until much later, because I just didn't make the connection. So the message I have here is, you may not think you have an interest now, or you may have an interest in something else, but watch out. There might be some space in your future. You just don't know it.
There is plenty of space, and I'm telling you, it's over living on the Space Coast, like it is definitely growing here, and it's so neat to see us return our Americans from launching them from American soil. We're hoping that Crew 1 will be on the 31st of October now. So on Halloween, we're hoping to launch them. So it's alive and well here on the Space Coast. So I want to talk a little bit about something for the kids to do now. So we'll go to the next slide, and I want to give you guys an opportunity to know that there is something huge that's out there right now. It is called the App Development Challenge, and it actually launches today. So if you're a teacher that's listening, or even a student and you're in middle school and you're into coding and app development, this is an amazing opportunity. And you can see the information on the screen there of how to register, where to go. We'll also put the link in the chat for you guys. But what a cool opportunity for you. I hope that, again, it launches today, and I hope that you get on that app development challenge. I'll also talk a little bit about what I want you guys to do. So we'll go to the next slide. You actually have a homework assignment, and that homework assignment, your mission is, first of all, check out NASA at Home website. So you'll see that'll be linked in the chat. And here's your call to action. You guys are going to have to design a crew capsule. So this is, it'll be a link that you can click on, and it takes just basic materials, and you're going to try to figure out what would be the best crew capsule for going to eventually Moon, and then them onto Mars. And when you do that, what we're hoping for is that you actually share your work with us. And that's going to be with hashtag NextGenSTEM. So you'll see that there. And finally, this is your huge assignment. All you have to do is click a button, but we want you to subscribe to this channel, the NASA YouTube channel, and you won't miss any episodes if you do that. So it'll let you know that you are subscribed, and you guys know how it works. So I want to say thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Dawn, Dr. Martin, for sharing everything that you have, your story. I also want to encourage everybody to tune into the next NASA STEM Stars, which is with Nathan Abraham, who is a thermal coating engineer, and that's going to be great. It's going to be October 7th at 2 p.m. Remember, subscribe. So there you go. And again, thank you so much, Dr. Martin. I want to also thank all of our watchers, our listeners. You guys are our future NASA STEM stars, hopefully, and star educators out there. I know there's a lot of educators tuning in today, so hello to you. And if you do not want to miss another one, again, subscribe. And we're going to tune out today. But thank you again, and we will see you guys on the next NASA STEM Star.